So this morning, like I always do on Sunday before doing a service, or especially doing a prayer, I check my Apple News. See what catastrophe might have happened overnight that we better pray about. I don't want to miss anything. And I'm scrolling through on my iPad, and there's nothing on 9/11. Pages. Scrolling through until finally I see an article on 9/11. Today is 9/11. And I thought, oh my God, I'm irrelevant. I was planning to talk about 9/11. And it's no longer important. But that's not true. And maybe there's some of us in the room that were very young when it happened 21 years ago, but I think most of us remember 9/11 quite clearly. We know where we were. We know what we were doing. We know what those next hours and days were like, and how heartbroken we all were when we saw those pictures on screen. The anniversary today of a time in our nation's history where we mourned together, where we came together, where we volunteered together, where we helped each other. We had nearly 3,000 people die that day, and over about maybe 10,000 wounded. There's a picture of St. Paul's Cathedral, St. Paul's Chapel that I found yesterday, and this is right across the street from where the World Trade Center was. And the next day when they went back to check out the chapel and see what kind of damage it might have sustained, once they got rid of all the debris on the grounds and on the building, not one window was broken, not one brick was out of place, nothing. It was totally in perfect condition. They got the go-ahead, they could use it, and this became a sanctuary for many people who needed rest or needed respite or needed a shoulder to cry on, needed somebody to listen, needed a meal, needed a place to pray. It was a shelter for many. And the fence that went around the chapel was used as a memorial, and a lot of people sent in from all over the world, sent in cards and banners and prayers, and they were posted on this iron fence. So many people volunteered to help after this horrific event happened in New York and Pennsylvania and Washington. And the chapel stayed open for 9 months for this purpose. For the 9 months that it took for the recovery team to clean up Ground Zero. Yesterday I watched a documentary called 9/12, From Chaos to Community. And it's a short documentary of people who volunteered at Ground Zero, or volunteered however they could in Lower Manhattan to help those who were doing the recovery work. What happens when people come together for a purpose, when people come together to volunteer their time? We had about 57,000 volunteers in Manhattan that weekend, or those 9 months. And it's amazing how they created a community. In the documentary, they talked about how this one guy that was kind of in charge of the whole thing, and he was talking about how he made like 400 friends in that 9 months because the people were there for each other. They served together. They used their gifts and their talents. They had some that were called bubble girls because they were in a bubble tent, and the bubble girls would just smile and provide a shoulder for somebody to cry on. There was one guy that talked about, I can't go home. And many of the recovery people did not go home, and they just stayed there and they slept on the ground or they slept in tents, working 12, 14-hour days. And one guy said, I have 2 daughters and a wife who are all pretty, and I just want a pretty face to look at while I'm eating. And one of the bubble girls would always be there to provide a face for him to look at while he ate his meal. It was a beautiful time of coming together, of creating community. And at the end of the documentary, the guy says, there were so many more who wanted to help and couldn't. We were the lucky ones. We were blessed because we got to serve. It's a beautiful reminder of how service can change us, how service can open our hearts, how service can help us be more compassionate and feel more connected to each other. In America, about 25% of the adult population, about 63 million people volunteer each year. And in Unity, we believe that each individual is an expression of God, and that our purpose in life is to express from this place, from this divine potential. And volunteering is a way that we do that. We call it sacred service. It's a powerful way to tap into our divine potential within. We all have it, and we all can use it in service to others. It's Unity's 5th principle, that we have to put feet and hands to these things that we've learned, to take action, to do something. Sacred service satisfies our souls from a heart level, from a soul level. It feels good to serve. It feels good to help. Eric Butterworth, who I just adore, one of our Unity ministers from years ago, said this: life's innermost secret is the divine depth, or your divine pattern, which you only really know when you're giving yourself in service. The creative process is calling you, singing its song in you and as you. So when you let God sing his song through you, your work or your sacred service will be easy and fulfilling. Be easy and fulfilling. This is in an article or a series of talks that he gave. It's on truthunity.net, but this particular one was called Intrapreneurial. We've all heard of entrepreneurial, people that start their own business or take risk and use their talents for the outside world. But intrapreneurial, he says, is to imaginally seeks to redesign your attitudes about your service. It's not about doing more, it's about how you see it. How do you see the work that you're doing? How do you feel about the work that you're doing? Way different than today. What I'm reading about is this quiet resignation that's going on, where people are saying, I'm just going to do the bare minimum in my job because I need life balance. And that's okay, and we all need life balance. And we all want to also give passion to our work, to what we do in the world. We want to give passion to it. We want to give it some oomph. So Eric Butterworth talks about this worth ethic, not work ethic, but worth, W-O-R-T-H, worth ethic, that we increase our worth ethic when we change our attitudes about our work. When we can really look at our work with a sense of purpose, a sense of passion. We all have this ability, this capability within ourselves. He talks about this waitress who, instead of saying, what do you have, says, how can I make your day brighter? How would you feel if you were sitting at a restaurant and somebody says, how can I make your day brighter? Instead of, what'll it be? We can level up our attitudes and share that and spread that. It has a major impact on our self-worth when we do that. When we spread the joy, spread the smiles. about our doing. And I know in Unity we spend a lot of time talking about our beingness instead of our doingness, but our doing is so important too. There's a story in the Gospels about Mary and Martha. You've probably heard about Mary and Martha. Jesus goes to visit them. And Mary's sitting at the feet of Jesus just listening to him while Martha's busy doing everything. And Martha's like, Jesus, aren't you going to tell Mary to help me? Maybe not like that, but, you know. And he says, Martha, Martha, Mary's doing the good thing, the better part, or whatever, so, you know, something like that. And we've often shared that story and talked about how it's more important to be than do. But way back in the 14th century, Meister Eckhart mystic, I couldn't think of that word, mystic, talked about Mary and Martha the other way. That Martha was the one that got it. That Martha was the one that was serving. That Martha was the one that already sat at the feet, already learned what she needed to learn and was doing, was in service. It's really a different way of looking at this, and this goes back hundreds of years. He says that the highly contemplative practice is to put feet to it, is to do, is to act. It's an integrated approach. It's not so much that we can do one or the other, we need to do both. And Jesus saying, Martha, Martha, he's honoring her. It's a different way of looking at the same scripture that we have for years said it's about we need to be. Well, we also need to do. It's a more fundamental approach. A bird needs two wings to fly. We both need sacred service and individual spiritual practices to raise our level of consciousness, to let our souls fly and soar. We want to strive to be the best for the world instead of the best in the world. Be the best for the world. It's not always easy to do this. We want to be the best. We want to know that we're making a difference, that we are, we're somebody, we matter. And we get so down on ourselves when we start comparing. When we start feeling overwhelmed with all the stuff we have to do, all the important things we have to do. And I'm not taking that importance away at all. I also get to a place where I feel overwhelmed, overworked, gloomy. And the best thing for me to do when I'm feeling that way is serve someone else. It gets me out of my own stuff. It gets me out of my own head. It helps me to see how connected we really are. This oneness that we teach in Unity, how true that is. Get to that worth ethic. That worth ethic. When we serve, we see how vital it is that we serve each other, that we help each other. There's a whole bunch of people that say that service is so important. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, says Gandhi. Muhammad Ali said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Martin Luther King Jr. says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Albert Einstein said, only a life lived in the service of others is a life worth living. And Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And Helen Keller, alone we can do little, together we can do so much. And that great unknown author says, your life is your message to the world. Make it inspiring. Make it inspiring. What are you showing the world? with your doing, with your actions? What are you showing the world? Life is a mirror. We don't get what we want or get what we need. We get what we are. What we are in consciousness is what shows up for us. If you don't like what you're experiencing, change the reflection in the mirror. There are countless opportunities to serve. And they don't have to take long. It can be something simple. It can be one little thing. I watched a short TED Talk yesterday of a young man, a teenager, who was required to volunteer his time in 8th grade, between 8th grade and high school. His name was Rowan Hafner, and he talked about volunteerism. And he talked about how what he did was worked at a hospital delivering meals. And he would just walk into a room and say, where do you want your meal? On the left or the right? Do you want it on the tray? Where do you want it? And he would leave. And that's what he did all day long when he was volunteering. Until he got to one man who didn't answer. He couldn't understand his answer. The guy answered him, but he was kind of mumbling and he couldn't understand him. And he realized that the man was blind. And it didn't really matter where he put the food. The guy wanted to talk. And so young Rowan sits down with him and has a conversation and talks to him about his life and asks this man about his life. And they connect. And he said it changed his way of looking at the world. It changed his perspective. It changed who he was, because he left that hospital after that day feeling happy, feeling connected, feeling grounded. And he said he spent the rest of the summer doing that, making a difference in the people that he served, not just where do you want your food and leaving. He went beyond, above and beyond. His worth ethic increased. He felt happier than he ever felt because he stepped out of his comfort zone. He was bringing the best of himself. So where are you in bringing the best of who you are to the world? Are you bringing something to the world? Where are you doing what is best for the world? Where are you giving from love and compassion? What is your worth ethic? Your attitudes? What attitude do you bring? Today we have an opportunity, or you all have an opportunity to check out all the service opportunities that we have here at Columbine. We're going to have a sacred service fair in Foss Hall after this service. And you can see and meet the people that lead our volunteer teams, our sacred service teams, and get a chance to sign up, to try something different, to use your gifts and talents in service to this community, to grow this community. And if you don't, that's okay too. But I would invite you to try something, if not here, somewhere else, in service. Maybe your neighbors, maybe at school, your kid's school, or I don't know, wherever you spend your time. Is there something you can do? We're providing this opportunity here to see the Sacred Service Fair so you can see what opportunities we have here. And our Anne Moriarty is leading this. She put this all together. She's no longer our interim community care director. She is our community care director. Yeah, she goes above and beyond. Very good worth ethic, Anne. So use this time after the service to check out and talk to other team leaders. Anytime you sign up, they're going to ring a bell. Anybody that signs up, we're going to hear a bell. So when you hear the bell, we yell, service! So we know that, yay, somebody else is stepping into service, into sacred service, which uses our hearts, which uses our compassion, which uses all that inner God, divine attributes that we all have. It satisfies your soul. Let it satisfy your soul. Find some place that you can give. Peace be with you. Namaste.